Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage. Finally, my capacitors have come in, which means we can get back on and hopefully finish this little Sony radio repair. So if we remember back to the last video, we had to leave it because I thought I had some and I didn't, of these 2 UF capacitors, surface mount capacitors. Those have finally come in. So we can put those last two capacitors on the board down here. And then big thanks again to Radio Cruncher. One point he made on my last video was to check the windings on T11 there, because apparently he's done a few of these radios. This is the first one I've ever worked on, and hopefully it'll be the last one I ever work on as well, because I can't say I'm really enjoying working on this. He said to check the windings on that transformer, because apparently he's done a few of these, and at least 2 of them. The electrolyte leakage from these capacitors here, which we've already changed, and we have done some clean-up work around there, had actually opened the primary on that transformer. So that's something that we are going to have to look into, and if it is, I am not 100% sure what we're going to do about it. But first thing we'll do is we'll stick them 2 new capacitors on. No, actually we won't, because if we have to address that, it's easier to address without them components in the way. Unfortunately, it does mean we're going to have to do is get this board actually off this back plane, so we are going to have to flip this board out. I don't know whether I want to take the ferrite with it and just put some new cable ties on there, or desolder the ferrite bead, or just leave it connected, because I'm going to have to desolder one thing or the other. In fact, that's already desoldered. That's already disconnected there. Oh, yeah, because that goes to there. Right. We might be able to get away with doing it without taking it completely off. Let's take these screws out. So that's those 3 screws out there. Yeah, we can get the board out without too much trouble. We'll flip it over. Bear in mind we've got 2 very thin wires there that we don't want to risk damaging. Let's see if we can see the other side of that. Alright, that's there. I'll put the glasses on, which are a little bit stronger, so I can see what I'm doing. Right. Okay, I can see T11 there. Let's go in and let's measure continuity on the windings. And keep your fingers crossed. Let's try between them 2 points. That seems okay. I think these are already, yeah, those are connected, because that's a ground point there. And then let's try this side. And that side's okay. So I think we're alright on that coil. So that was one thing I was told to check. I can't see anything else that looks untoward on that side of the board. So let's flick that back over, and we'll get it back in position. Now we'll screw it down straight away, like I say, because I don't want to risk damaging them wires, and that can probably get soldered back now, because I don't think this board's... Oh, is this board going to have to come back out again? I can't remember yet. I'll put the screws back in, and I can't remember I'm going to have to pop that board back out in before I I reassemble the radio or not, because I know there is a wire off the other board which I think has to go onto this board. I'll have to review all the footage I've taken on this radio. It's one good reason why I've filmed a lot of the work, is it'll help me put the radio back together once I've actually done the electrical repairs, because that's probably as much of a challenge as actually doing the, well, no, it's not quite as much of a challenge. It's bloody fiddly, let's put it that way. Okay, that'll hold the board for the time being, just to hold it in place while we fiddle about and put these new capacitors on. So we've got one that goes across there and then one that goes across there. Let's get some fine solder, and I'll get my flux. There's my flux. Get some tweezers. I'll get my other tweezers. That's that bag I was looking for earlier. And some nice fine solder. Okay. I think we've got everything we need here to put these last two capacitors on the board. So we can get in here. There we are. I want two of these. One, two. And they can go back in my capacitor stock. Right, first things first. I think, because one of those pads did move very slightly, but I think we secured it back down with a little bit of conformal coating on the last one, but we'll tin up them pads. Just let me just clean the end of my iron, because that's looking a little bit scabby. Give that a good old scrub. There we go, that's looking nicer. Okay, we'll tin those pads up just a touch, a little bit like that. I'm just going to, I can turn them up, just put a little bit on the bottom of the capacitor. Oops. Only a tiny touch. There we go. A tiny touch on that one. And we'll make sure we can orientate the capacitor in the correct direction. Our splodge is over there, so that's the way that we want the capacitor to sit. So the capacitor will have to go in that way round like that. And I'm just going to try and warm that solder that I've just put down and literally slide the capacitor into it. And I can go down on this side. Okay, let's try that. There we go, that's gone down quite nicely actually. I'm just going on this side and just touch that in a little bit when I can get my iron in where I'm not going to melt anything. Just very slightly reflow that side. There we go, that's gone down a little bit on that side. We'll just go back in. There we go. That's just sitting a little bit flatter than it was. yeah, I am reasonably happy with that. It's making good contact. So we've got this next one to change. Where has he gone? There he is. This one's a little bit easier because it's right on the very edge of the board. So again, we'll just add a tiny little bit of fresh solder to them pads. And the nice thing is, when I do that, I'm not getting a horrible fishy smell or anything, so we already know that we've cleaned the board up. Or else, if we hadn't cleaned the board up when we even just warmed it up a little bit, just by applying that little bit of solder there, that little bit of solder to tin the pads, we'd have got that horrible bad fish smell coming up. So that's a good indication that we've done a reasonable job of cleaning that off the board. Let me get this held correctly. And solder it on that side. And we'll just go in and just solder that down like that. There we go. Just touch that in there. There we are. So that's all the capacitors changed now. We've got all new capacitors on that board. We have checked T11 there, and that seemed good. We seem to have continuity on both windings in there. Next thing we need to do. That's most of the electrical repairs done. But we do have an issue here. No, that one's good. But on that connector there, one of the pins actually broke off when we desoldered it, so that needs addressing before we can start putting the radio back together. And I have a similar actual issue on the amplifier board. Oops, let's get this out. Which is the other part of the radio that we have to put back together. We have a similar situation. Where is it now? There. Where one of the pins has broken off. So that's going to be the next thing we need to address, and then we can actually start putting this thing back together. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to make myself a cup of coffee because my mouth's feeling a little bit dry. So I'll go and make myself a cup of coffee and have a little brew, and then we'll come back and we'll start we'll repair those pins, and then we can actually start looking at putting this radio back together. So back in a sec. Right, we're back. So the next thing we need to do is take a look at these broken off pins. Now we'll start on we've actually only got two. There's one on that board there and there's one on this board. We'll take a look at this one first. In fact, that's got a little bit of corrosion around that pin there. I can see. Not too bad though, I'm sure it'll go back in. But basically what's happened is, now it's either through me not getting enough solder off, although they were free to move when I actually pulled them out, or it's actually just down to corrosion. But basically what's happened is the pin has broken off. Now what we can do, if we pull the broken pin out of the little connector, that can go back in after. So we've got the little connector there. It's just like a strain relief. Now we could just strip them off, solder them back on the board and have done, but what I'm going to try and do is actually repair it so we can reuse the connectors that we had. So I've got the broken. Let me see if I can get you down a bit so you can see what I'm doing. I don't know how well this will work with the way this camera focuses, but you can see we've basically got the pin there. That's the good one, and you can see there's one there and it's snapped off. So what I'm going to try and do, I've got my cut off legs box here, because basically when I use a component I always cut the leg off and I stick them in here, and they're very handy for making little repairs and what have you. So we'll find one about the right length. You look about right. And what we'll try and do is we'll try and push that. You can't see what I'm doing, but basically what I'm doing is I'm pushing that bit of leg down inside the broken off connector like that. Let's see if I can hold that and pull that away because I don't want anything to happen to it. Let's get that where we can see it. There we go. Let's see if we can get you down a touch so you can see what's happening. So I've got the wire there with just a little bit of a broken off leg shoved in the end where it had snapped off. Now, where's my nice fine solder gone? There it is. In fact, what we will do is we'll add a tiny touch of flux to that just to make it easier to flow. There we go, tiny touch of flux on that. And then we'll try and solder. There we go, it doesn't need much. So we've basically soldered a pin back where it had broken off there. Actually, that's worked quite nicely. Now hopefully, if I've got this right, we can push all this back in the connector. Let's try and pull that through. I think I need some pliers or something. Get hold of that. That's gone in. Let's try the other one. Get hold of that with them, like that. Give that a little pull to seat it in. We'll get hold of the new one. Give that a little, there we go. And we've got basically a replaced pin on the end there, so that's okay to solder back into place now. I've got one more of those to do on this board. This has got exactly the same problem there. If you notice, we've got one if you notice, we've got one pin snapped off there. And I'll basically repair it exactly the same way. So what we will do, I need to obviously be very, very careful with the board, but basically it's that green wire. Let's see if I can get you so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. I really need more than one camera, so then I can have a just like an overhead shot as well. Right, like I did before, we'll use them just to lift up a little bit of plastic there, like the plastic tab. We should be able to pull the wire out. This is where you need two hands. You need to be able to hold the tab up and pull the wire out like that. And make sure that little bit of plastic goes back down. Yeah, there we go. So we've got the, let's get you out. We've got the broken off piece there. And if we look, I don't know if you can make it out, but it does have a little hole down the middle. So we'll take my my selection of cutters. There's some wire wrap wire and all sorts in here for making you know, like repairs on broken traces and stuff. That's what I keep these for. Let's see what we've got in here that'll work. You're a nice piece. I think you'll work. Oops, and I shot it across the room. Well, shot it across my desk. There we go. So there's the piece of wire I've selected. That should slide down the centre of that broken off connector, like that. As you can see, we've basically just slid the new bit of wire down that connector. I'll probably do like I did on the last one, we'll just add a tiny touch of flux to that. That'll be enough. Make sure that that is nice and square. Just clean my iron. And all I want to do is go in and just solder that in place. It don't matter that it's moved a little bit, providing it's actually got a good bond, which it has. So we've got a wire soldered on there, and then we can put that back in, and we just get hold of it like that and draw it back into the connector. There we go. Obviously it's a bit longer than the rest, but that doesn't matter one bit. That doesn't matter at all. The important thing is that we can connect it back up. Right. I suppose the next thing we need to look at, there's some wiring on here that we disconnected while we was working. We'll actually start putting some of this back on, and then right. We'll start with this. Is actually the power switch. That's actually the power switch for the radio, I think. That connector needs to go back in there. Now we've got a ground there which is black, which corresponds to that, so that should be the correct way around. So let's push that back in there like that. Make sure all that's nice and snug. Flip that back over, and we can solder that in place on the back. Can you see what I'm doing? That is the question. Yes, you can. So that connector's nice and nicely in position there. And what we'll do is we'll just solder one. I can in fact just hold it with my finger, and I'll just solder the first point. That's held in place, and then we can have a quick check on the other side, make sure that the connector is exactly as we want it and we're happy with it, and then we can go along and we can solder all the rest. Okay, there we go. So that's the first connector reconnected. That seems okay. That's nicely in there. We can put this next one on as well. That goes the same way around. Now none of these are broken. It's just the fact we need to re-establish the connections, obviously, because we took the whole thing apart. Right, so I'll put that back in there like that. So we have to be super careful. Let me get you zoomed out a little bit. We have to be super careful with that ribbon cable there, because that's the one thing I do not want to damage on this radio, because it would be a nightmare to repair. Right, so I've got these connections 1, 2, 3 and 4 to connect back there, and then we've got those two large connections to go back. So let's do this one again. We'll just do the first connection and lift it up and just make sure it's all exactly where we want it, and then we can go along and we can do the other ones. So we'll do the end one there, and then we'll just have a quick check. You can just, there we go, that's better. It was slightly higher on that side, you see. Happy with that now. And again, we'll go in and we'll just finish off soldering up those connections there. So that's that. I think it's audio actually, that power and audio connections are connected back up. We're getting to the point now where we're really going to have to start reassembling some of this. We do have other metalwork and things that need to go on, and then this board can go back onto there. We've got some metalwork that needs to go between that and that, but before we can do, this is why this radio is so hard to work on, because you've got many different interconnecting pieces and they are a pain to go back together. We've got a connector there, that's for those two wires there. You get you out a bit further so you can actually see what I'm doing here now. So basically we've got, that's the RF section, this is the audio section. These two need to be married back together now. Now what I will do, we've got these two wires here, the one that I repaired and the red one that need to be connected to these 2 points there. I've got to do that first, and then we can start looking at perhaps doing some of the more of the mechanical reconstruction of this. Right, so let's just figure out which one goes where. Now fortunately everything is really well labelled on this radio, so we've got white there. That's slightly annoying. It's marked on this board white connector and red connector, but when you get over onto this board it's not. Fortunately what it is marked is all the different connections are actually marked. So well, where is VHF on? That one's VHF, isn't it? So that one is that connector there, I believe, because we've got VHF SW something, which I can see there, VHS 6 volts, P something, which is that there, yeah, 3 volts. There's there. Yeah, right, so, and then that one down there corresponds to everything we've got here. So we've got a ground SIG, I think that says, which will be signal. Then we've got AF. Then we've got SS something. Actually, no, I'm wrong. That one is that one and the red one is that one. It's just that the last bit of that is chopped off there. So, and that's the ground to that way. So that one connects onto there like that. I could of course just go and get the manual, but I think I'm right. There we go, push that through. You can see the, let me get you zoomed out so you can see. Oops. There we go. So you can see there the connector coming through, and there's the pin that we've repaired. So we'll get that soldered in place. That's one. 2, 3, 4, 5. These are very tricky to do. 6, 7, 8, 9, and last one, 10. Right, so that's that connector back up. We will have to remove our little excess there. Where's my really sharp side cutters gone? There they are. So we'll snip that off so it's the same length as the other ones like that, and you can't actually tell them from there that that has been repaired. Right, next we have the red connector to go back on, which is this one. That says VHF at the bottom there, that says SG at the top, which is SG at the top, so that goes in that way round. And this is very, very fiddly. In fact, we've got a slightly bent pin there which is causing us some issues, so we just need to straighten that out. Hopefully it doesn't break off when we straighten it, which has happened to me in the past. I think we got away with it this time. So let's get that back. Are we nearly there? There we go. Right, now solder that side in, and we'll solder that side in like that, and we'll just make sure that the connectors, see it's come up a little bit on that end, so we'll just press down on that end and we'll, there we go, that's better. That's come up there now, so we can solder it all into place. Okie dokie. We'll just reflow that first one. There we go, that's perfect. So that's the majority of the radio really connected back together. What I will do now is I'll just pause the video while I get all the mechanical bits of this out, and we can actually then I'll start having a look at actually putting this thing mechanically back together, to at least to the point where we can put some batteries in it and see if we've made any improvement or not. So I will I'll dig all that stuff out and start putting it together, and I'll be back as soon as I've got something to show you. So back in a sec. Right, we're back a little bit quicker than I thought we was going to be. There's actually a part that I completely forgot about, and basically I'll get you zoomed in so you can have a quick look. Basically, when I took this connector off here, it's the white one of those long 10-pin connectors, there was a little surface mount, I think it's a capacitor, on these two pads at the front there, and as I desoldered that, it actually come free. So I thought, oh god, what's going to happen to that? What I did when I put all my screws away, I actually stuck it, where are you? I stuck it underneath here, and there it is. Oh, it's a capacitor, yeah. So we've got a tiny little, can you make that out there? Oops, come on off the tape, don't break. Probably only like a 0.1 or something like that, but that has to go back basically on there like that. So we'll do that now before we go any further, so we don't forget about it, get all the radio back together and realise, you know, why it's not working properly or why it's off frequency. I don't believe all these radios have that. I think it depends on where it was sold. from what I could, what I was reading about it. But anyway, we need to get that back on there like that, and I think we can just do it with a normal soldering iron. I don't think we need to worry too much. But this is smaller. I mean, as you can see, I do a bit of surface mount stuff, but this is like right at the end of my comfort zone size wise. This is bloody tiny. Okay, soldered on that side. Okay, that's soldered, and I'll just add a little bit extra on this side. There we go. There we go, that's reflowed, so that's that capacitor back in position. So that's that done. So I really will now go and dig all the bits of metalwork out, start putting this thing back together. And I said we'll come back when I've got something interesting to show you, so back in a sec. Right, as you can see, we've got it pretty together now. Actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it has took quite a bit of time of taking it apart, putting it back together, taking it apart, putting it back together, until I was completely happy that every part would slot back together the way it actually came apart. All we really have to do now, connection wise, is to get that soldered back where it's come from down there. So again, unfortunately, we're going to have to take this board off yet again. So we'll take this board off. And hopefully, everyone keep their fingers crossed that this should be the last time this has to come off. Take that last screw out there. Again, we can slide this board. It's going to be a lot trickier now, obviously, because it's all connected up. Oh, poo. Yeah, what I'm going to have to do to... Because last time I had this board off, I hadn't got all that connected back up. Hopefully there's enough room just to wrangle this board out with all them still connected. Otherwise, I'm taking the whole radio back apart again, which I didn't really want to have to do. I wonder if I slacken that off, I can do it. So we'll get... Alright, no. Try that. Aha. Aha. Got that turning, lovely. Well, the idea is if we can pop that off, that's still quite stiff to turn. If we can pop that aerial connector there off, it should just give us enough, yeah, it should actually. I've just noticed a screw I can take out as well, wonderful. So let's take this off, and then we can get that board. This is the whole problem with this radio, it's so compact that they've had to really cram everything into it, and it makes servicing an absolute nightmare. I mean, I am guessing this was a very expensive radio when it was new, with what coverage it has. It's obviously it's an incredibly expensive radio now in the collector's market, but I can't see it as being a cheap radio. When it was brand new, it would have been a very expensive radio back then. Right, we'll get them out of the way, and hopefully, no, what we will have to do, but again, like I said, just spotted, if I take that screw there out, I think, hopefully, no, oh poo, because that just holds that bracket on. Can we finagle it now we've taken, oh Look at that, just. Right, let's get you flipped back over. In fact, I'm going to have to disconnect that piece of lens wire there. From that connection, like that. And then we should be able to bend the board over. Yeah, we can. And we should be able to put this connector, in fact, there is a bit of the broken off. I'll have to disconnect that other wire there as well. Remember, black on this side, beige on the other side. But that'll have to come off as well. There we go. That's the medium wave, I'm guessing, aerial coil. Right, get them out of the way and we can bend this over again. Yeah, and we've still got the pin that broke off stuck in the board there. See if that will just come out of the board. Oh, you're being awkward. Oh, there we go, it's out. So let's figure this out, which way that goes. That goes in that way round. We've still got a little bit of that leg stuck in that hole. No. No, seems okay. Just having a little bit of issue getting this back in. I might just have to suck them holes out. Perhaps there's a little bit of solder or something in that hole because it's not passing the leg through as easy as it should. So, I'll get some solder. It's probably because of a massive ground plane on that side, which is not making life easy. But I might have to get the the electric desoldering station out if it doesn't do this time. There's still a little bit in there. Have we got it? No. It's because there's so much ground plane around there. So we'll fire up the manual, the electric desoldering pump to get that cleaned off. I don't want to risk keep pumping and pumping at it like that. Not when I've got the correct gear to get it cleaned off right there. So I'll get that sorted out and then we'll come right back. Right, well, I got that cleared out, but even with the electric desoldering station, that was quite tricky to do because we had a big ground plane on both sides on that one connector. Well, there we go, that's fixed. We will trim that excess off on there. Lovely. Right, now that board can now go back in position and hopefully for the last time. Right, there we go, we'll sneak that back under there. Let's get this board back in place, and I said hopefully it's not going to have to come off again. I really hope it doesn't have to come off again anyway. Right, that's in position. Let's get that screwed back down, and then I can reinstate the antenna connection there. And then we might lash this radio up to its speaker and its some batteries and actually see if we're going to get any audio out of it, because that was the initial issue with this set, is it had no audio. I said the tuner and everything seemed to be tuning through all the stations fine. It was finding stations, it was scanning and everything like that, but we had absolutely zero audio coming out of it. Okay. There we go. Now we can put this aerial connector back in position, complete with its locking nut. God, these things are fiddly. I mean, I'm not saying if I found one of these, you know, in a box of radios at a car boot sale, I wouldn't buy it and repair it, but it wouldn't be my first priority. So these are not nice to work on. There's far more interesting, more well, apologies, battery went yet again. I'm going to have to sort something out about this because it's getting daft. But I've got the radio kind of put back together, and I'll show you what we've got so far. We have made progress, but we're not there yet, basically. I'll switch the radio on, and we can scan through, say, the FM band, and we are actually getting audio from the speaker here. The problem is it is so quiet, I have to put my ear to the speaker to actually hear it. But when it comes in, it's you know, it's actually scanning and receiving stations just fine. It's just very quiet. So we've still got an issue. We actually do still have an issue in the audio section, but before it was getting absolutely zero audio at all, as where now. So I have to put my ear to the speaker, but I am actually getting audio through. But I have noticed a few other issues with the radio as I've been putting it back together, which could be causing us some of the problems. One thing is the battery pack. It is not making good contact, and I'm not getting the full 6 volts from this actually through to the radio, so I think that could be a contributing factor. There's a very bad contact in there that needs addressing. I mean, actually, at that time it actually come on, but every time I've been fiddling with it, I've had to pull the battery out, push it in, pull it out, push it in before I could even get anything to come up on the display there. I said I have got audio coming out of it, but I don't even think the camera can pick it up. It is that quiet at the moment, but it is still better than what we had when I started with this radio, so we have made some progress. We could have even just have as simple as a bad speaker. I mean, that'd be easy enough, because there is a hell of a lot of corrosion damage actually on that speaker. Saying that replacing it would be fun with the size of it. Got a nice lock signal there, I think. And I can just hear, like I said, unfortunately I don't think the microphone on the thing is going to pick it up, but we are picking up stations, and I am hearing, you know, music and talk and what have you. It's just so incredibly quiet at the moment, so we've still got an issue with that power amplifier section. We have corrosion There's a little transistor there, which is all corroded around it. I have a feeling that's not come from surface mount. There we go. It just started working. So our amplifier section is actually working. Right, let me see if I can perhaps get it over onto something that I can pick some stations up, because I think we're in the... I don't know where we are at the moment. It's just basically it's just scanning at the moment, and I am not that familiar with these type of receivers to really know what I'm doing on the programming of them. I'm going to need to put the contact thing back on before that'll work. Basically I've got the rubber here, I've got the front of the radio there so I can see what I'm pressing. Right, we're on shortwave there. I want to try and get onto something like FM, don't I, so I can I did have it on. Is that it? So I did have it on FM, VHF earlier, but I really don't know what I am doing. There we go. That's we're in long wave here. But it's proving that we've now got the power amplifier in the radio actually functioning. Even if we were just listening to static, we couldn't get any static, we couldn't get anything on it before, and as you can hear now. There's definitely audio there. I just don't know what I'm doing with this radio. It's far too complicated for someone like me. Like I said, I'm not a radio amateur. I like messing about with old valve radios, old transistor radios, but I am not a radio amateur in any way, shape or form. So I don't really know what I'm doing with this radio, as in, you know, setting it up, programming it for different frequencies and stuff like that. But we have got the audio working, and that is the main point. That was what this radio was brought to me to have a look at, is the fact that it had no audio on it. The audio was dead. And obviously now the audio isn't dead anymore. We seem to have fixed that. We have seemed to have fixed that issue at least. I really don't know what I'm doing with programming this thing. But anyway, I'm going to leave this video here for now. You've seen we've actually made some progress. What we'll do in the, hopefully, fingers crossed, final video on this is address some of these other issues that the radio has got. Like I said, we've got some corrosion around there that we need to have a look at. But more importantly, let me just disconnect this so we can have a proper look at it. We have got some rather... There we go, that's off. We have got some rather nasty corrosion on the battery contact there. It's even got onto some of the parts of the charging. I presume this is the DC charging circuit for the battery and running it off external DC. We've even got a lot of corrosion around there. We'll have to have a look at that and get that sorted out and happy. So we've got that little bit of corrosion on that transistor there that we're going to have a quick look at. Apart from that, I think we're pretty much there with this radio now. Obviously the repair work I've done with the actual capacitors and everything has been a success. At one point there I didn't think it... I thought we were still having issues in the audio section, but it just shows that was due to me not knowing how to actually tune something into the radio. As soon as we figured that out, well, I pressed a button that obviously I should have pressed. We got actual audio coming through. So anyway, like I said, I'm going to leave it there for now. There is going to be, like I said, hopefully, fingers crossed, one more video on this, sorting out some of them issues with that board. Finally putting it all back together, and then hopefully Andy's friend can have his radio back. So like I said, I hope you enjoyed that little update on the project. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.